So we're just going to do a very quick rundown of what's in the rack. At the top, we've got two Quad Cortex minis on a single 1U drawer with an 18-channel multi-core custom loom. So that compromises 3.5mm TRS jacks, which now replace the larger MIDI connector on the previous Quad Cortex. So obviously this is a smaller device. The I/O options on the back of it, the sends and the returns, the captures are all the same, but some of the connections have changed, so just bear that in mind when you're thinking about cabling it up. But this rack comes with a custom-made 18-channel with everything you need. It's got USB-C in there, it's got your XLRs, your power, everything that you need to connect that to the RSW. So there's two of those at the top. You've got an A or your main, and you've got a B or your spare. That's controlled by the RSW at the bottom, which we'll get to in a moment. So we can close that up. We've also got these nice birdcage turners at the top. So rather than worrying about those plastic catches that do tend to break on tour sometimes, we also thread lock all the bolts on these. And at the rear of the drawer, we have a PVC U channel that just kind of stops the loom from getting caught at the back. Down below that, we've got the Shure SLXD 4Q Plus, which is also their new release for 2026. This product came out a little while ago, but there's a bunch of new features on the new version, so go and check that out. This is the Radial JX42. It allows you to switch 4 guitar wireless, so your guitar 1, 2, 3, 4 get plumbed into here. Then you can choose which guitar you want to select, and then you have an A/B section for the output, which we've done these nice little custom labels on with the RSW mute, and you can select between them. And then the RSW here is basically your I/O for all your inputs and your outputs there. So I'll put up a picture right now of how we've done the inputs and the outputs. But to keep this really, really simple for the purposes of the video, we've essentially got a left and a right XLR output as normal. And then we're using 2 additional outputs for a headphone send, which terminates to the panel at the rear. So you can basically plug your headphones in and listen to it. So, you know, if you're behind a stage or at the practice room, whatever, you don't want to make too much noise, you can just plug your headphones in and do that. You can also control the volume of that with the QC. And then the other output we're using in this case is for a Laney FRFR guitar cab, which is a full range cab. If you haven't checked those out, they're awesome. Go check them out. So this is basically for Neural to showcase their brand new product. Let's just pull that out again, because this really is the star of the show. Look at that, very, very nice. But what I just want to do here is just kind of demonstrate in really basic terms how we've set up the MIDI. So in the back of the rack, we've got an RJM multi-box, which provides you with 3 channels of bi-directional MIDI control, 3 additional MIDI TRS outputs, which you can use for pedals and stuff like that. But in this rack, we've set it up in a way that allows us to power the RJM GT10 controller. You can buy this pedal board as it is, as an accessory to the rack, which allows full bi-directional control. And by that I mean basically you can receive information. So say you have a playback system and it's sending you commands, it will send those commands down to the controller and give you an instant visualization of what's happening. So let's talk about the pedal board. This is an RJM GT10 MIDI controller. We have a Dunlop DVP5, a Boss Wazacraft TU3W tuner, and a DR Guitars junction box. So this is basically a routing box, a junction box. It's also got power running through it, so we can power additional things underneath. But keeping it simple for today, I'm just going to show you how we've wired up the MIDI for this. This single connector here is a 7-pin MIDI DIN connector. That allows us to send 12-volt power from the rack down the cable into the device, which powers this, and it also gives us 2 9-volt 100 milliamp outputs, which powers the tuner. This is passive, so it doesn't need power, which is cool. But basically we can receive MIDI information from playback or from external devices, but we can also send MIDI information to override whatever's going on that way. That means that you can have this out on stage, you're in control of it, but it will also automate with any automation that you've got going on from your playback system, but it allows you to override what's going on. On top of that, we've set this up so that you can control the MIDI functionality on the JX44 and on the RSW. So if we look at the pages here on the RJM, we have 3 pages, and we look here, we have scene mode, JX42 mode, RSW mode. So with the QCs opened out, just check you can see those. like there. And then we're just going to toggle through the presets on the MIDI controller. But let's say you have MIDI automation coming from playback, you would be able to send into this RJM multi-box and split it in various different ways. On the second page, we have guitar wireless controls. So if you just look at these buttons down here, we can turn any guitar on and off via MIDI, and we can also A/B between the two outputs down here. Now in this scenario, there'd not really be any reason that we would need to mute the RSW. I'm just showing that it has the capability to do that if you wanted to do that. So we'll turn all the guitar channels off. And then finally, we've got a page here which allows you to control the RSW, the auto redundancy switcher. So if you wanted to do that by foot control, you can do that, or your tech can do that. And as we see here, it's just switching nicely. So just to show you how the RSW works, as I said before, it's basically a series of inputs and outputs that you can plug into your Quad Cortex devices, combine the two, and allow them to auto switch if one of them stops working. So how do we do that? It's really, really straightforward. And for this, I will show you on the computer. So what we're doing is basically creating a loop. With the sine wave coming into input 2 of the QC, it goes out of send 1 and creates a loop. If you pull the power and for any reason it stops hearing that sine wave, you pull the power here, look, with these twist lock connectors, and it will auto switch